Hi, my name is Jacob Siwak. I am the head chef and owner at Forsythia on the Lower East Side in Manhattan. I am here today with Food52, and we are going to be making Trofie al Pesto, one of my favorite dishes from Liguria. All right, we are going to be making durum and water dough today. We are going to be making our dough for Trofie. We have 400 grams of durum flour and 200 grams of water. And we'll start very simply by pouring it all out onto our surface. And we want to make a nice big well. And our well should have two important features to it. First, we want to be able to see all the way through to the surface of our table. And then secondly, a fully extended hand should fit nice and comfortably in the base of our well. And then slowly, but all at once, we can add all of our water. We'll use just a regular fork, bring a little bit of flour in from the edge of our well, and then kind of like we're whisking eggs, we'll start to incorporate our flour and water together. We want to go nice and slow just to make sure that our water doesn't spill out all over our table. And once our mixture is thick enough that we can drag a fork through it, and it's creating this channel that's not closing back in on itself, we can be done using our fork, and we'll move on to a tool called a bench scraper. And if we keep this tight to the surface of our table, it will take everything off the table for us. And then we just want to chop through and start to manually mix the flour and water. We are using durum flour today. Durum flour is a little bit higher in protein and a little bit higher in gluten than our typical flours would be for making pasta, and it's going to allow us to have a little bit more elasticity with the dough, and will allow us to stretch it and manipulate it a little bit more than some other doughs, which for Trofie is very important. As we are doing this, we really want to make sure we're taking everything off the surface of the table. As you can see, that's where all of the really dry material is coming from. We just want to make sure we're always bringing the dry to the top and then forcing it into the moisture in our dough. And once we have all of these little pillows starting to form, we can start using our hands to bring it together and make sort of a stretching, almost smearing consistency with the dough. If we push just straight down, it will be very hard for us to incorporate flour and water together. And so I've always found that thinking about it like a little bit of an angle down, but mostly out with the motion of our stretch. But just like the last two steps, always bringing the dry dough to the top and forcing it into the moisture in the dough. And we're just repeating this over and over until we feel like there's no dry bits on the outside of the dough, and it feels the same no matter where we touch it. I learned how to make pasta very young. I have a mom that made a lot of handmade pasta growing up and a grandma that made a lot of pasta growing up. So I was around it a lot. Come home from school and find little trees in our house with spaghetti or pappardelle or tagliatelle hanging over it drying, which was really neat. And then I was exposed to it. I lived in Italy for a few years and was of course exposed to a lot of it then. All right, we are done with this step when the dough feels exactly the same no matter where we touch it. We are going to wrap our dough in plastic wrap for just a little bit. We need to let it rest and let it self-hydrate just a little bit. And if we leave it out unwrapped, it will dry out on us pretty quickly. We are going to put all of our blanched basil and our pine nuts, our garlic, our Parmigiano into our food processor. We're going to blend it up real quick with our olive oil. Our first step is going to be putting all of our basil into our food processor. This was 12 cups before it was blanched. We're going to add a half cup of pine nuts. I'm going to use 5 cloves of garlic today. They are on the slightly small side. Sometimes I might use just 3 or 4. And we're going to add a nice handful of Parmigiano. We will start processing and then slowly drizzle in our olive oil until it's the consistency that we want to achieve. We want to look for a nice paste of a consistency. We don't want it to be too loose. Other basil or pesto shouldn't really be a nice loose sauce. We want it to be nice and thick. It's really just personal preference when it comes to how much cheese you want, how much basil you want to use. We have a specific recipe that balances it out nicely the way that I like it. But something I found very quickly living in Italy is that there's not really a right or wrong answer for how to make a lot of these dishes. So use our recipe as a guideline. Don't necessarily use it as a total rule book. You can riff off of it as you please. Now I'm going to briefly knead the dough. We will keep our plastic here because we're going to wrap all of the dough that we're not using. We don't want it to dry out on us. I like to keep a little container of water here just to wet my hands a little bit every now and then. And to knead the dough, we want to bring the far side over the near side and gently roll out. And then when it gets long, rotate 90 degrees, far side over near side, and roll out. I started as a junior maitre d' at Olmsted. I think it was either 2016. And I had never really had such a person or guest interfacing job in my life. You learn very quickly, especially as a maitre d', how to interact with guests, and also something that was very, very, very heavily imposed upon me as a good learning lesson is that the experience starts way before people think it starts. It starts the second you walk in the door, or honestly, in a lot of cases, as if someone's walking down the street and looking at the restaurant and seeing what the sidewalk looks like, seeing what the front of the restaurant looks like, and paying attention to all of those little details and not just what the food tastes like or how the server treats you. All of those little details matter if you're trying to accomplish something really, truly excellent. And I was very lucky to be at Olmsted at the time when we were just kind of exploding. When I started there, it was one backyard and one restaurant, and by the time I left, I think we had 3 basements combined into one commissary kitchen. Greg had taken the restaurant across the street, and we had a bunch of backyards. We are done kneading the dough when our outside texture kind of starts to feel like a leather belt. That's the way that I was taught. To make our Trofie, we're gonna take just a tiny little piece of our dough off, and I'm going to keep the rest of our dough nice and tightly wrapped. We don't want this to dry out, so I like to keep it kind of clutched in my fist like this and rip just a little piece of dough off at a time. My first step is to roll a thin piece that is slightly tapered on either side, and then I finish it by pulling back towards myself to make a nice little spiral like this. This took about 10 hours of just messing around with dough. Playing with different pressure, playing with different angles, watching YouTube videos from pasta grannies to see how they do it. And this was all after I was a trained pasta maker. It's a tough shape to get right. This was the trickiest one for me, and based on how students do with new shapes in my pasta classes, this is one of the harder ones. There's not really, in my opinion, a right or wrong answer for what shape needs to go with a certain sauce. I think a lot of shape and sauce combinations are born out of tradition and not necessarily born out of what's the most pragmatic. I think of like bucatini alla matriciana, which we serve at Forsythia. I think bucatini is a great shape for it, and it's a shape that everyone wants to eat with amatriciana because that's tradition, and people love bucatini as a noodle, but I think rigatoni is a better shape for that dish. We don't extrude any of our pastas at the restaurant using a mechanical extruder. We hand crank all of our extruded pastas, and making rigatoni is very, very, very labor intensive. The 4 Roman pastas that we always have on our menu, cacio pepe, alla gricia, amatriciana, and carbonara, those never leave our menu. They stay there, and they're there all 12 months out of the year. Other than that, it's our use of organ meat and how we like to bring that into the fold as much as we can and as much as our guests will tolerate it. We like to drift a little bit towards northern Italy in the winter and a little bit towards southern Italy in the summer and in the warmer months, as that's what they do in Rome as well. They don't just stick to central Italian cuisine the whole time. Using their ingredients and using the food that they like to cook there is the backbone of our menu and what we like to do. I was lucky to have experience cooking in a trattoria in Rome called Santo Palato. That's really, really, really excellent, and I highly, highly recommend it if you ever find yourself in Rome. We just try to embody the ethos of that seasonality, using the whole animal, using the right Roman pastas, using Roman cheeses and Roman salumi. My favorite thing, honestly, is I love making this shape at like 7:30, 8 in the morning when no one else is at the restaurant. I have nice jazz or classical music playing. My mind does go pretty blank. It's extremely meditative. I think it's very healthy, honestly. Just allowing my brain to just focus on the movement and repeating the same thing over and over. It's almost like how you're taught to focus on your breathing, but I'm just focusing on what my hands are doing and really not much else. All right, we are going to transfer all of our Trofie into our pasta basket and let it boil for a few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. I usually like to start tasting them after 3 or so. We actually never salt our pasta water at Forsythia. I always keep it fully unsalted. We make a lot of our pastas with Pecorino Romano, which is a very, very, very sharp cheese. And so we don't add any salt to our water so as not to over salt the dishes that have Pecorino Romano in it. If you're only making one pasta at home though, and you're not making anything with Pecorino Romano, feel free to salt your pasta water a little bit. I tend not to. I like to salt the sauce in the pan and control my salt levels that way, but it's not a rule, it's a guideline, and feel free to do as you please. As far as I know, however, the restaurant I worked at in Rome, we never salted our pasta water. That was where I picked that up from. This is our finished pesto. We're gonna add it to our pan relatively late in the game. We don't want it to get too hot and cook for too long, otherwise it will lose its nice color. But our Trofie has been in there for 2 minutes or so now, so I think it's time. And we'll add a little bit of that nice starchy water as well, and we can get that going. All right, our pesto is nice and hot. Our Trofie is finished cooking. We are going to shake all that pasta water out and transfer it to our pan. And then pretty quickly we want to start tossing it, and if it gets a little too thick, we're just going to add a little bit of that pasta water and let it keep going. Now we're going to add the salt. It's important that our pasta still sucks up the salt and is still salted. We just don't want to do it in the pot where we can't necessarily control it. And on that note, we will add our last 2 ingredients. These are also optional. You can totally just eat your Trofie al pesto as is, but traditional to Liguria would include green beans and small potatoes as well. These are both blanched ahead of time, so they have been cooked. They're not just going in raw. And I'm just gonna sprinkle in a few of the green beans, and I'm gonna add all of the potatoes. Just a little bit more of the pasta water to finish it. And I like that the potatoes on this dish add a little bit of that starchiness as well, and we'll even thicken it up a little bit more. And this is our finished dish. Now the first parts, we had some stages that were optional. You have to put cheese on top at the end though. This is not optional. And that is our Trofie al pesto. We did it. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you make your Trofie al pesto at home. Please tag us if you do. And if you're ever curious on how to make this shape and want to come take a class with me and learn how to make it, for me, myself, I teach classes on Mondays and Wednesdays at Forsythia. All of the tickets are available on Resi, and I hope to see you there.